Welcome to Vibrant Living Conversations. I'm your host, Gemma Putty. As a life coach to midlife mamas and women, I'm excited to bring these conversations from North Idaho and across this region to support you on your journey to vibrant living, glowing from the inside out, fully in your own true to you power. For this interview, I am talking with Kayleigh Brickey, creator of Adapt Elixirs. I'm so excited to have her here today to learn more about adaptogens and her delicious beverages that bring healing and overall wellness to your favorite mug. So welcome, Kayleigh. Thank you so much for joining me.
Hello, Gemma. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, my pleasure. Well, let's dive into the big question of how did you get started with your business and adaptogens?
Well, I guess where I could start was I started having some random pain in my body about 4 or 5 years ago, and still to this day, it's undiagnosed. And so I was trying to make as many changes as I could with my own diet and just kind of exploring that. I have to be honest, if you met me 10 years ago, I seriously did not eat anything healthy by any means. Like I prided myself on this. I would just say, I love cheese. I had not a vegetable drawer, but a cheese drawer in my fridge.
Love
And
it.
so, I really had to make some changes. And it was funny because I was just driving by one day and I was going to grab a coffee in the morning, and there was like 5 people waiting on each side of the coffee stand. I
Yeah.
mean, it's crazy to think that there are parts of the majority of this country do not have drive-through coffee stands,
Right.
because it was hopping, and I was there to sit in line for 20 minutes to get my 100 grams of sugar and
Right.
start my day off in not the best way. As I was just sitting there, I'm like, I wish that there was another option for me. And I love getting a juice in the morning and I
Yeah.
love smoothies, but there's just something about that cup of something warm and creamy, and it just sets the tone of your day a little bit different. And it feels a little
Totally.
bit more like a treat, honestly.
Yeah.
So then I just started exploring. At the time, I kind of knew a little bit about adaptogens. I was just starting to learn about how they help balance your body. And I just decided to get a little crazy and start exploring.
I love that. Can I ask a little bit more about the pain that you were having? Because at
Of
some
course.
point, I know with a lot of people, it's easy to deal with it or go to the doctor, the Western doctor, and take whatever they're giving you. But then at some point, either it's not working or you're still in pain. That is like, there has to be another way. What was it for you?
I went to the doctor. I made it very clear that I'd like to start off with making as many changes as I could by myself, but that I'm in no way opposed to modern medicine. I think that we're so fortunate when there's need for that. But I do think that often we forget that we can heal our own bodies to a certain extent. And
Right.
so I just wanted to do that the best that I could. I wanted to make sure that I was eating as good as I could and making those changes and seeing what different options I had, moving my body, things like that. And at the time, my doctor, as much as I could tell she begrudgingly was, working with me with that.
Yeah.
And, I just started trying to make these different changes. And then I just started really listening to my body, and it felt like inflammation. Like
Yeah.
that's just what it felt like for me. So I started to just make little changes here and there. I'm an extreme person, so I had to go all the way to one side so that I could bring myself back to some like center space here. But I tried Whole30, and I made those changes. I added some supplements in, and honestly, then it just got a little bit difficult to stick with the Whole30. I have to be honest, it was
Right.
really
Yeah.
hard. But
Right.
that was also really powerful for me too, is realizing that I didn't need to go all or nothing, that I could find this in between. And that has been a journey on its own for me. And something that I really, really want to bring to Adapt too is that sometimes it doesn't have to be this all or nothing. It can be making subtle changes,
Yeah.
swapping out little things here and there to try and support your health.
I love that so much. I think I talk to so many women that are like, it feels like such a daunting thing, whether it's like quitting coffee or quitting alcohol or whatever. You're like, I can't do it all. Like that
Yes.
is enough to stop them in their tracks and just keep doing whatever they're doing, even if it's causing pain. Like on some level, their mind and their body is, but it's comfortable. But it's comfortable. So it's
Hmm.
like just start taking the baby steps, start introducing like the curiosity that you had with what are adaptogens and what is all this hype about herbs? Is it real? And educating yourself about it. I love that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing is I've always had a tendency to go all in. And sometimes I just think that that's what pushes us away is because we go all in and then we feel so afraid that we're not doing it right or not doing it well enough. And then what ends up happening? We just give up because
Right.
it feels like you've failed and nobody wants to continue doing something that they're failing at. That's just not what we
Right.
want to do. But
Right.
taking things in this like, okay, today, instead of having that coffee, I'm going to have something else. Or instead of that second cup, or, instead of today me going out to eat, I think that we'll just cook in, 3 days a week. It just doesn't have to be all or nothing. And
Right.
it took me a long time to realize that, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I love that. And even reframing failure, right?
Yes.
It's like failure is like you're growing and learning. And it doesn't have to be like whether you're drinking all the coffee or none of the coffee. It's like, well, wait, how does it feel in your body? Because we don't connect with our body in
Exactly.
this world. We're so disconnected. It's more like, how does she look? And is she running around with all of the energy for me to accomplish the 5 million things on my to-do list every day, which is not realistic, right?
Yes, it's so true.
I love that. So, I mean, to go from taking it from making drinks and using herbs and adaptogens for yourself into a business. How did that happen? And what's your mission with Adapt?
Well, I had a clothing business before this. So I guess I just have a tendency to, if I see something, I want to create it. Like I just feel like after really looking into what pulls me into the entrepreneurial spirit, I think it's just really just being creative and having something that's my own. I think that, I have two teenagers and life gets very pulled into you are the mother, you are the wife, and just having something for myself and being able to have a creative outlet and something that's fun and something that connects me with people, but also bringing something that I really felt like our area could use. I mean, there's just not a lot of healthy options unless
Right.
again you want to go all the way to one spectrum or the other. I just want options. It's not even about having to make that choice every day, just having the option to when you'd like to have those alternatives.
I love it. Yes. So tell us about your business. What are you making? How does it work? Because I'm like, let's start there. I don't know that everybody knows yet.
So I am an adaptogenic elixir creator. And so currently I have two beverages. I have a maca root matcha, and then I have a chaga mushroom chai. I really find it important to be using really well sourced ingredients, organic ingredients, and just really making sure that I'm sourcing things as best as I possibly can.
Yeah.
That's just something in my own life I try to do. And I think that that's a really important part of health. And I think that often it can go wayside, but it's so important and it's so critical that we notice like the amount of nutrients that are available when you're sourcing something a lot better than otherwise. Um, but it's a fun alternative. I love mixing up different beverages, playing with flavor. Like the matcha actually has an orange flavor to it. And then the maca root kind of gives it like this almost like a marshmallowy flavor. I can't describe it better. It just balances out the grassy flavor of matcha. And some people love that. And this just kind of gives it a more balanced, easy to drink feel. And then also we use like different sweeteners rather than sugar that are just going to affect your body a little differently, the glycemic scale. And so, I use agave in the matcha, and then a local honey is in the chai. And
Nice.
then, yeah, I'm adding on a couple elixirs here and there. And then I'm really excited to step into a new, like, it'd be like the daytime and the nighttime of Adapt. And the nighttime would be like herbal mocktails. And just messing around with that, I quit drinking like 2.5 years ago. And honestly, it's just I want an alternative. That's the truth. I want something fun to drink
Yeah.
that, I can feel good about.
No, for sure, right? It's these defaults that are in our culture of like coffee and alcohol specifically in this case that are defaults. And as I talk to more and more women, they're like, yeah, I don't feel great about it. Yes, I wish I didn't drink as much. Yes, it's just kind of what I do on a Friday night and then like the mind games of, but what do I reach for in the morning instead of my cup of coffee? Or if I'm out with girlfriends or whoever, what am I going to have if I want me going to drink water instead of a glass of wine? It's like now, and there's more and more options without alcohol, right? But it's fun to be a mocktail. How fun is that? It doesn't have to be just a soda water or
Yes,
you're making it way
exactly.
more creative. So when people ask you what an adaptogen is, just what is your elevator pitch of it?
I love thinking of it kind of like a thermostat. When you set your thermostat, if it starts to get cold in the room, then your thermostat's just bringing you back to neutral. If it starts to get too hot, it's going to bring it down. And that's exactly what an adaptogen is doing. It's going to, if you're feeling like you need that energy, it brings you back to baseline. So that doesn't mean that it's going to hype you up or make you feel jittery or anything like that. It's much more subtle, much more like a nice calm. And then also if at night you're feeling, you're having a hard time relaxing, you're a little high strung at the evening, it can help bring that back down. And then each one of the adaptogens all have like a superpower in a way. So you might use something like maca root. The superpower is going to be hormonal health and stamina, which we all love both of those things.
Yes.
Ashwagandha is going to be a great one for stress relief. A lot of people will use that for anxiety. And again, it's not going to be some extreme. And I think that so often that's what we want, to be truthful. I mean, that's what we want, is a pill that's just going to fix everything.
Right.
But I think this is more just taking care of your body and listening to your body and using something that is going to connect with your body instead of trying to work against it, if that makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. That's even my coaching is totally that. It's like up until, and I think we both are like midlife women are probably where most of our niche market is. It's up until this point, we're very like outwardly not driven, but like the world creates a lot of the habits that we figure out in our 20s, right? We're like looking to impress the world, to live in the world very much rather than like come back to our own bodies and our own truths and our own like needs and desires. And that's the same from like a coaching standpoint, but from what you're saying and just like healing your body, come back to what is your gut telling you? What is your hormones telling you? And nurturing it because you're listening to the pain rather than going outside and being like, well, the doctor told me to take this pill, but now I'm going to have to take it every day for the rest of my life. Like, well, what is feeling good in your body? Like, I just think that is sustainable and such a beautiful process because the only person that we're guaranteed to live with for the rest of our lives is us, right? So I was curious when you said, even so we said matcha, maca, ashwagandha. Are there a couple other like key adaptogens that we're missing? I know there's a ton of them, right?
There are so many. So the really cool thing is that for an adaptogen to be an adaptogen, it has to not harm the body. Okay. And then it also has to be something that is overall wellness. So not necessarily like, oh, if I take this, it's going to help my back or whatever. It's more just an overall wellness that it's going to give you. There are a lot though, and there's many that are kind of borderline on this in this category. But I would say ashwagandha, maca root, then there's the fungi. So chaga is one of those that's kind of on the cusp. Okay. But because it's known as like the king of mushrooms, which I think is kind of cool and has been used in ancient Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine for thousands of years, right. It goes into that category also. Reishi, honestly, we could go, there is a long list of them.
Is
and
cacao
it's really great though. Cacao is not,
Okay.
but I think again, it's one of those that's right on the cusp there too. But oh my gosh, it's so nutrient dense and it's so good. It really
Right.
is.
Right. I love it.
I'm working on like a hot cacao right now,
Nice.
and it's just so soothing and feels so good when you drink it too.
Fun, yummy. So the sourcing, I'm curious on the sourcing because I know you and I were even talking about prices when we first met, and it's just really respecting what it takes to find yourself quality products that you're like, these aren't full of fillers. They're not like sprayed with pesticides or whatever they do to try and force these
Yeah.
herbs to grow. What is the complexity behind you having to go through to find good sources?
Well, I think that I feel really comfortable with the supplier that I'm using for a couple of my herbs right now, and
Nice.
they are very transparent, and I really love that. Um, Something that's important to me is that we're not messing with the environment while we're doing it, and that
Right.
can happen really, really common, and you don't realize it. But another thing that's kind of interesting is when you're sourcing mushrooms, there's different ways to source mushrooms. And by no means is this like demonizing, but for me, I just want to have like the best of the best that I can.
Right.
When you're creating mushrooms, you can make them at home and you can use oats, there's just different types of things that they can start to grow on. Well,
Okay.
as you can expect, so chaga mushrooms are on birch trees in very cold climates.
Okay.
It's going to get such a, a different amount of nutrients growing
Right.
naturally than it
Yes.
is in another way. But that doesn't mean, if your only option is to have, the ones that are grown on the oats, then that's not a problem at all. It's just, to me, if I can get it better and I can get it more nutrient dense, then I want to do that.
I completely agree. I think you and I were talking about loving to travel too. And it's like you could, I mean, this is a bad example, tanning beds. I was talking to someone about it the other day, but you could go to a tanning bed and think that that's your sun supply, or you
Yeah.
could fly over to Hawaii or the Bahamas and that's your, right. And it's
Yeah.
obviously tanning beds are toxic and you don't want to do that. But like, do you want the like local easy or do you want the actual real experience? And at least with herbs, you're still getting benefits with both of them. But
Yes, definitely.
to get the authentic always feels better, in my
Well,
opinion.
it is. No, it's so true. And I think there's something so beautiful about it because also like with the matcha that I use is a ceremonial grade and that's not necessary. And maybe a
Right.
lot of people won't be able to taste the difference as much, but to me there's so much beauty in the way that it's grown then. And they use like big pillars to grind it down. And the way that they put shade over the matcha leaves and then or the green tea leaves and then they slowly little by little add a little more sunlight each day and I just
Wow.
think that's so beautiful to think that somebody's working on these leaves and they're taking the time and believing in their power and I just think it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
No, I love that. And that's such a good lesson for us to take to everything that we're doing, right?
It's
Whether you're
true.
chugging your cup of coffee in the morning or you're like cherishing it and you've got some adaptogens in there and you're savoring it. So you actually are enjoying this experience rather than just mindlessly chugging a cup of coffee or whatever it is your go-to.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And even, I mean, as corny as it sounds, even when I'm just pouring the bottles or anything, like I'm thinking about the people that are going to be drinking it. And
I
I
love
just am
it.
like sending out some happiness and just
Yeah.
like, that I put an affirmation on each bottle. And every
Love
time that I
that.
write them down, I just am hoping and praying that these are going to the person that those affirmations are going to speak to. Um, I just think that little
It's
things like
beautiful.
that they mean a lot to me, and so I hope that it will come through in my products too.
Yeah, I love that so much. One more thing about your sourcing, milks. I know that alternative milks now are such a great thing for so many reasons, not having the lactose. But I also know to your point about even what is it doing for the environment? Like we know almonds is not super sustainable. Will you talk about the milk options that you have and even just what you've learned in going through this process about the different milks?
Well, to be completely honest, the way that I really wanted to start Adapt was I was making my own nut milk. And, we're still in the process of trying to get that to work out so that that can be something that we can do because I have to admit, there are so many additives that are in all of the alternative milks, to be honest.
Right.
I've been playing with other ones too to try and see like less ingredients if there's a possibility. But right now I have the option where people get to choose what milk they want to use in their deliveries. And so that really just opens it up to you and what you would prefer too. And, making the choices that are right for you.
Yeah. No, I love that. Yes. The gums and the oils and like, what is this really in a milk? What?
I know. And then when you make it at home, you're like, oh, it literally just takes water and nuts.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh,
But I
yes.
mean, I think that often we forget, and we need those things too, because we need things to be shelf stable. Not everybody can make their
Right.
own milk every single
Right.
morning. And as much as I
Yes.
wish that I could, honestly, but yeah, just making those little choices that are right for you is what's important. And I am hoping that I can get, some house made nut milks in there, just because that is so much truer to what I believe is, best for our health.
Yeah. Is anyone doing that locally that you know of?
There, I have not found anybody. No, the processing is really difficult to go through, just because you
Oh,
have to find out what types of bacteria could go in there, anything like that. You have to get third party testing. And yeah, it's just so interesting. Going through that whole process is definitely a more trying for me, just because I love the more creative. But,
yeah.
I just always tell myself just one more step and one more step, and that's all you can do. And after you do it, then you've learned how to do it. And then you get to move on and use that knowledge next time.
Beautiful. Yes. So you mentioned there that you do deliveries. I don't think we touched on that before because you deliver on Tuesdays, right? People can order online and then you deliver to their homes. Is that right?
Yes, I do deliveries on Tuesdays. I also can do shipping, because I also have the beverages available in powders, so you can mix them at home, which is really fun too, because I like to just find really random ways that I can use them. The other night, I sauteed up some apples and sprinkled some chai on top of there,
Yum.
or in smoothies. I've done pancakes, things like that. It's just kind of fun to get to mess with it a little and find new ways to put, your nutrients into your day. And then I do deliveries on Tuesdays to your door. And that's just honestly because it's that's what you want. That's what you want, is to go out and get that out of your front porch. And it's just such a little delight to get something delivered to you.
Yeah, I'm originally from England. I think we talked about that. And still over there, they have the milkman. Like you can still get the milkman.
I
And
love
I
that.
was back there in like May, and it was just so magical. My nan like is getting, oh, she's got her pint of milk, or now she's only getting half pint, and it just appears on the doorstep in its little glass bottle, and it's like
I love that.
so great. So, what is your favorite drink or adaptogen, even mocktail that you're working on right now?
Oh gosh, that's hard. I would have to say, well, I'm working on a mocktail right now that is like a smoked pineapple margarita.
Yum.
So it's going to be, the actual pineapple is smoked and then it's
Okay.
muddled. And then there's fresh lemon in there. There is, or I'm sorry, fresh lime in there, soda water, agave. It's really simple, but something about that smoked pineapple. And then I put a little turmeric in there also. So the color is just so bright and vibrant. I love a little treat.
Mm.
If you haven't been able to tell, I like it to every part of my senses. I want my eyes to be excited. I want my mouth to be excited. I just love it all. I just think treating yourself is so fun.
Yes, no, it's that smoked flavor. You're totally and margarita. I really do miss the margarita, like the tequila. But there's nothing about part of me that wants it, but just that,
Yes, I
even the
totally
notion
know.
of it, right? Yeah. No, I
Yes.
love that. Oh,
And it's
yum.
really important to me that, I'm not demonizing caffeine or
No.
alcohol. I
Yeah.
think that, everybody has a different relationship. And I think that's totally fine.
Yeah.
For me personally, like when I was drinking caffeine, I was like, why do I have anxiety all the time? Why is it 2 o'clock and I'm anxious? But I wasn't anxious about something specific. And that's when I knew it was the caffeine. I knew I would go, why am I anxious right now? And then I couldn't figure it out. So what does your brain do? It's like grasping for everything that you could be anxious. So what are you doing? You're
Right.
just pulling it all into you and bringing it all back up. And I just really
Right.
realized that if I wanted to be healing myself naturally, then
Yeah.
I have to take the initiative, like you said, to listen to my body and respond to it. And it's, I still have caffeine sometimes.
Yeah.
I even have like a Zip Fizz. I will sometimes have those,
Yeah.
but now I kind of use it more in for myself. So I'll use it instead of abuse it. Instead of having it every day, if I have a day where I wake up and I'm feeling tired, and
Yeah.
myself knowing what caffeine does is it just turns off that part that tells you you're tired. It doesn't necessarily make you more awake. It's just having your body shut down that little part that's
Yeah.
saying, I'm tired, I'm
Yeah.
tired. I will have it if I need it. And
Right.
with alcohol, that's everybody is so different. But for me, it's just that was one of those where I was like, once I quit, it felt like I don't really need this. It wasn't serving my life in any way. I still
Yeah.
hang out with everyone when they drink. It's
Yeah.
no big deal to me. I just know that for myself, I feel a lot better not having that.
Oh, I love that you said that. Yes. I think just knowing you are the expert of your own life. You're just doing what works for you. And I love that approach because there are people that quit whatever they quit and suddenly everyone knows about it and everyone that's still doing it
Yeah.
is like the worst. It's like, no, just being able to own what works for yourself and trusting that. And I think even for me right now, when I'm Matilda, my baby, is 4 months and is on and off sleeping. So I'm like having to do so much mindset work on my default for so many years has been like grab a cup of coffee and
Yeah.
I don't like it. It feels like compulsive in ways rather than like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just enjoying a cup of coffee. So it's now at this point where I'm like, okay, what is happening? What mindset shift? What thought do I need to pluck out of my brain and put something in there that's like, but I want to feel calm and peaceful. And I think just all the herbal benefits of having something adaptogenic, you feel like not like taking medicine, but it's benefiting you. Like there's
Yes.
no part of it that is like hurting your system, which is just a beautiful thing. Like that's what food and drink should be about, right? Nourishment for our bodies and souls. I love that.
Well, and that's what we should be doing too, is I think we keep going back to like really listening to your body. And that's
Yeah.
not easy. Like
Right.
I
No,
just really
no.
want to emphasize, like
Yeah.
that is so difficult. Like constantly we have all these outside things that are just trying to just fight for our attention all the time. But what is the last thing that you're doing
Right.
is looking inward. I mean, I am so guilty of that. I'm so jealous. My husband, he's so good intuitively eating. It's just so good. And then there's me. I'm like, I just ate 10 different things. I don't feel well and I don't know what made me feel bad. But he can tap into that. And I think that it's so important to work on that. And again, make it
Yeah.
a practice
Right.
because it's not going to be easy. And I think that's like just the whole point for me with all health is like, it's not easy. And so
Yes.
anybody that's like, this should be easy for you because it's, natural. I don't think that for myself and so many other people, and sure, some people it might feel that way, but for me, like emphasizing that it's not easy all the
Yeah.
time, but
Well
that makes
said.
it so much better when you start to conquer those things. It's
Mhm.
so much more pride that you can feel that you did the work for that. And so even making some little change, like one drink a day, or
Right.
one meal a day that you're eating at home rather than out, like that is a big deal.
Yeah,
And I
for
just
sure.
think that people need to be patting themselves on the back a little more because we have this external stimuli constantly telling us to eat out, to drink,
Yeah.
to be on our phones, to be watching TV, all of this that is like, wait a minute, none of that is good for me, but I'm getting, I mean, subliminal advertisement almost constantly telling me to do those things. I mean, my husband and I joke all the time. You watch any TV show, they're drinking the whole time.
Oh, totally. Right.
It is the weirdest thing
Yeah.
ever. It's
Yeah.
just like, it doesn't even need to be in the story, but someone was like, yep, we should have them drinking right now. Again, not a bad thing, but recognizing those things all around you that are
Yeah.
having you have that habit, that comfort feeling. I mean,
Yeah.
it's important.
Well said. Thank you for saying that and just normalizing it for like, and getting it off the like, it's not perfection or failure. There's so much gray space in there and that's how we live. Like we don't, perfection isn't even real. failure is only real if you make it real. Like, really, it's just lessons that you're learning and just figuring out what works for you in the moment. Like you said, sometimes you're like, today I am doing this.
Yep.
Tomorrow it might be a different story. So yes, thank you for normalizing that. It's not about beating yourself up. It's just about making small changes towards feeling better about living life.
Yeah. And once I really, and trust me, I had to go to therapy to work through this because I was totally a perfectionist and I still am working with it. But just kind of being easier on myself and saying, what's one thing that I did today that was a better choice? And not being like, I have to work out every day, but like, what if I just my body today? And like, it doesn't have to be an hour. Some days I'm like a 10-minute stretch.
Yes.
Good enough. That's what I can do today. And before it used to be, you know, I'd start off, I love New Year's. I love it. I love that restart.
Me too.
I like trying to make a commitment to myself. But before it'd be like, you know, I'm going to work out 3 days a week. So then it'd be the first day, the second day, and then the third day, I'm like, oh, I had too much going on today. And then by the next week, I'd feel like a failure. But I just worked out 2 more times than I would have before. So why would I be a failure? I just did something more. And I mean, I know we all know this inside, but really connecting with it and just realizing that, you know, every little bit that you do, every little change that you make really does matter.
Yeah, no, well said on so many levels. That's beautiful. Yes, yes. So tell us more about your mocktails. And I know you're now, I've seen a couple of events pop up on Instagram. So where is the next chapter of Adapt really going with the mocktails, more events, your bar?
Well, I recently purchased a very old bar, like mobile bar. So I'm refinishing that. And, you know, I have to be honest, my husband is doing the majority of the standing. He's so good. I was like, I'm going to do this by myself. And then I went out of town and he did it. And I was like, I appreciate you so much. So we're working on that. I just love it. It gives me kind of like a little bit of 70s vibes. And I want to do events and I want to, you know, just have options and show people that like mocktails can be super fun. You know, I don't want this to be like pre-packaged. I want the mocktails to be like something that you go and it looks like you're having a bartender serve you and everything. I just want it to have the full feel, the full effect of going out and having fun, because I really do think that you can go and have fun and not have to be drinking when you're doing it. You know, if I'm being honest, you want to throw some, you know, a shot of something in there, that let that be your prerogative. I'm fine with that. I'm just giving you an option. Again, it goes just back to options. And I want them full flavor and I want them to just be an alternative that you can feel good about.
Love that so much. Yeah. And I think with anything, that feeling of being like, I'm stuck doing this because there's no other options. Suddenly you're like, there are other options. And once you can like get out of that, I'm stuck. Like suddenly you find all of these amazing ways to have a mocktail and be able to wake up great the next morning or just feel refreshed and energized in yourself. You know, just creating options and creativity. Like who doesn't just want another good drink option when they're out with their friends?
Exactly. Well, and I think also just hearing that other people don't drink is really nice too, or like seeing an option of, you know, a bar that there is not alcohol. It's like, oh, there's other people that have this lifestyle. I mean, when I first started talking about bringing out the mocktails, I was a little nervous. I mean, you know, like I said, it's all over TV. You go to any event, everybody has a drink in their hand. And so it can feel really isolating, like you're the only person that doesn't do these things. Or so just having that out there too is having people see that there are other options and seeing that they're not alone in the choices that they make too.
Yeah. Well, and once you start to like look, it's kind of like when you buy a red car, suddenly you see 5 million red cars everywhere when you didn't see any before. Like since I've stopped drinking, I'm like, there's so many non-alcoholic beer options. Some of them are like low cal, some of them it's like straight up got a stout that I would swear has alcohol in it. Like non-alcoholic Guinness tastes the same as Guinness, right? So it's for me, like grabbing a cold beer on a really hot day is like, I love it. I do. But there's a million options and they don't have to have alcohol in and they still taste like a cold beer. So once I started to look, it was so empowering or just like you said, there's a bazillion other people living this way. You just have to open your eyes to realizing that, start looking at the
Exactly.
other direction. So yeah, so good.
My ultimate dream would be to have a cafe in the morning and then at night to have it just totally transformed to this non-alcoholic hangout with, live music and exactly how it feels to go to an awesome place that you could say, hey, do you want to go grab a drink here? Hey, do you want to go grab appetizers? Just another option. That's all that it is just creating options and spaces, because I don't mind going to a bar. I'll go to bars with people, but I also notice sometimes the people that drink feel weird asking me to go to a bar. And I'm like, I don't really care. But I mean, how nice for others to feel like they're supporting their friends that aren't drinking by being able to say like, hey, let's go to this place, that new, Adapt, the new non-alcoholic bar.
Totally.
And I mean, there's definitely success in other cities. There's different places. There's an amazing one down in Colorado. And so this is turning into a movement. It really is.
No, totally. Yeah. A lot of the big cities, it's trendy, right? I really think it for many reasons, but yeah, I love it. Let's think, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about that I have not touched on? I know, big question.
It is kind of, no, I don't think so. Right now, going back to the events and everything, I do have some events coming up and I just do samples and such as that. So I think it's just always important to follow me on social, because that's where I'm putting out all the different types of events, because I love just having people try something. I mean, that's all I want you to do. Try something a little different, see what you think about it. I think a lot of people feel a little nervous with the whole mushroom aspect. I promise nothing tastes like mushrooms. I am the craziest, most anal person when it comes to the flavors. I will try them a million times until I can get them to just exactly what I think. I want to meet more people. I want them to try the drinks. And I also just think it's big to be part of the community and getting into these events and getting to meet all of the other amazing people that we have in our community it's great. Awesome.
Yeah, I love that. Well, you touched on it a little bit. People can find you on social, but what's your preference? Is it Instagram and your website?
Yeah, probably. So both are just going to be Adapt Elixirs. So Instagram is just Adapt Elixirs and then adaptelixirs.com.
Perfect. And your branding is beautiful. And she has
Thank
journal prompts and all kinds of fun things in her messaging as well. So everyone check that out. Well, I like to end with by my definition of vibrant living, which is glowing from the inside out. Who or businesses, a couple locally that have inspired you on your journey?
Well, I would probably start with Danny from Lucid Roots. I first of all love her salads so much, and then she had these falafels that I'm not even kidding you. It was like my family craved them. We were looking forward to Wednesday markets, but just knowing that what she feels true to herself, she's always trying to put that into her business. And she's always been really helpful, connecting with me anytime that, I've had a question or anything. I just think that she really stepped forward into this health area that before anybody else was.
Yeah. Right.
And, creating something that was available to everybody and creating these flavor profiles that, make people excited to be eating something that's super nutrient dense. I just think that's awesome.
Yeah. And again, them bringing it to your porch. I'm like,
yes. I love that. I would probably say Griffin Turnbull. She used to own White Brick Interior, and now she does real estate staging with Staged by Griff. And she was Mrs. Idaho. She is the most amazing woman that's just, she is just magic. You can tell by how she presents herself. She is all about, she works with the Children's Village very closely and is always trying to find different ways to support our community. And I just think that's so beautiful. I mean, I just strive to be like that, because I just think it's wonderful to see somebody that is going out there and doing the work and trying to find their place in our community and doing it unapologetically, trying something. And if it doesn't work, trying something else and just sticking with her creativity. It's really amazing.
Yeah, no, I love that. Yeah. Awesome. It's just so nice to, again, like the red car thing, you suddenly get into this world of health and wellness around here in the North Idaho area, and suddenly you've just got, there's so many women, there's so many people, so many
Yes.
businesses that are just paving the way. It's so
It's
cool.
so true. It really is really neat to see. I mean, I've grown up in the area and just to see, and it doesn't just have to be women, but all these
Yeah.
women, it's
Yeah.
so amazing.
I
Like,
know.
it's just so cool to see these different women that are thriving in their businesses. And even the ones that when they don't thrive in their business, they have this bounce back that isn't,
Mhm.
I failed, it's what's next. And
Yes.
so I feel really, really fortunate to even know the women that I've gotten to know so far.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree. And I'm excited to even what everyone's got this buzz around 2023. So I'm excited to see what
Yes.
this year brings for all of us. So,
I've
yes.
been feeling that too. I agree. I think it's something good.
Awesome. Yes. Well, Kayleigh, thank you again for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much for letting me come.
Thanks.